year. Eventually, the Sooners came back to win it. And Gary Bohannon's been very efficient as well so far, and still not getting quite the love. But if he has a big game today, if he does, against Texas, that won't hurt whatsoever. Baylor's defense has been good. They got beat up a little bit against Oklahoma State. They've given up some big plays along the way, but they have been good. Texas's defense has struggled, although looked like early in the year that they were going to be able to force some turnovers, and of course that can change everything as well, along with the special teams today. With what Jamison can do for Texas and Ebner can do for Baylor, both are dangerous in the return game, both either in punts and or kickoff returns as well. Armstrong, let's take a break, come back, reset. Baylor and Texas pregame next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality Study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, we're back in studio. A little technical glitch to start the show. Sorry about that. Armstrong Sims, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak. I mentioned this at the top of the show. If you did not hear it, if you're in the Waco area looking for a place to enjoy the tailgate, Brazos Parking, our Sikkim 365 tailgate being, catered by Milo's, a full bar right off the top. Breakfast, tacos, chips, salsa, seasonings, $20 a person. Includes 2 drinks of your choice. Buy drinks separately. That's going on right now. The temperature is gorgeous. It started out today in the mid-40s and perfect for kickoff a little bit after 11 o'clock. Also today in the Big 12, you have Iowa State at West Virginia. Iowa State jumped right back into everything with their win against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma home against Kansas. Against Texas Tech, and the coaching change. TCU at Kansas State, 2:30 as well as a kickoff. And tonight, 6 o'clock, Oklahoma State tries to get back in the win column as they host Kansas. Those are the games, plus Baylor and also Texas at 11 o'clock at McLean Stadium. The overall series, they've met now. This will be the 111th meeting between the two. Could be the last time they ever play in Waco because of what happens down the road. Perhaps with the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to happen. We just don't know exactly when. But most likely, this could be the last game they meet in Waco. Baylor, after losing 12 consecutive games, won for the first time in 2010. And since that time, they are 5-6 against Texas, pretty much 500. And I can think of, guys, about 2 or 3 of those games in which Baylor walks away going, what in the world? Remember the Johnny Jefferson fumble in the game in which they lost all their quarterbacks. Remember the loss against Texas down in Austin was like 56-50 when
they didn't review a touchdown at the end of the first half.
Well, that plus also the Glasgow Martin fumble near the end of the game at midfield. And then obviously the game, a couple of others, the one that 2016 when Baylor came in 6-0 with all sorts of distractions and went down there and lost when they had the lead all game long, could have put it away 2 or 3 times. Shock Linwood didn't go in the second half, fumbled by Jermichael Hasty, and they lost that game. So there's been 2 or 3 others that they could have won along the way, but there's always that. It always goes both ways as well. We'll hear from Jeff Howe, who covers Texas 247 Sports, and also J.J. Joe as well. Let's discuss this Baylor running game. They've been able to do this against most everybody. Texas has given up a lot of yards on the ground. Craig, your thoughts about Abram Smith, Treston Ebner, the line against the Texas defense that at times can create turnovers, but at times is not, in big moments, has not been able to stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, late in games they've faltered, but they've been pretty good outside of that. I think a lot of Texas issues get, blinded. I guess a lot of the criticism for Texas comes for what they've done late in games, not so much what they've done throughout the most of games. I mean, if you look at the way they played early in particular, they're a very good football team. They do falter late, but outside of that, that's not something that, Baylor can bank on. If Texas gets up big today, there's no guarantee that they're pulling an Oklahoma and marching all the way back, or an Oklahoma State and marching all the way back. So I think it's key for Baylor to keep the score close early, and I kind of feel dumb saying that because it's always like, what is the cliche things everybody, well, start fast and, tackle well. And it's like, that's all, don't get penalties. Like, we say the same things, honestly, every single week because that's all stuff that factors into a game. But I do think that the Baylor run game, the success or lack thereof, is going to be the key to this game. If Abram Smith and Treston Ebner can run the ball effectively, you could have a typical 100-plus yard game from Abram, or something similar with Treston combined for 150, 200-plus yards. Then I think that they've got a very good chance to win this game. If they're forced into having to throw the football too much, then I don't think it's going to bode very well for Baylor. So yeah, Abram Smith and Treston Ebner, huge keys to this game. I think Abram can be effective against this Texas defense, but it might be a situation where maybe early on it doesn't work as well, and kind of have to keep grinding away at it. But if they have success early, then I think that's going to really play well into their hands.
All right, so let's go. If you're on the line, 254-339-1122, the lines are open. That's available as well here with Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Online with us at this time. Now, some of the chat room discussion from Quanah. where was I? Oklahoma getting a pass rusher this week against Texas Tech. I wonder if he can tackle. I wonder how long it will take him to get into game shape, condition-wise. Also,
you're talking about Jalen Redmond?
Yeah, I guess so.
He's supposed to be back. Last I saw, and he's been out for several weeks now. So if Jalen Redmond's back, then that's very good news for Oklahoma. It doesn't solve every issue, but they've certainly been faulty up front and various other places in that defense. But, getting Jalen Redmond back would be big if that's who you're referring to.
Well, and look, and one good pass rusher can make, 2 plays a game that might be the difference in it. Now probably not going to make as much of a difference for Oklahoma today. I think that they've got a pretty darn good matchup, no matter what happens. But I think down the stretch it'll be good, especially if he stays healthy. And, because sometimes on a defense, I'll just use the Cowboys in the NFL. If you look at what the Cowboys really do, they're not that great on defense, but they get to the quarterback and they get turnovers. So in close games, sacks and turnovers mean things, and that's where a guy like that can help you.
Yeah, in the past, there are probably a couple, 2 or 3 games this year when Dallas would not, because they couldn't force the turnovers to get the ball back after they had themselves either turned it over or fell behind. From Quanta again, anyone else think Texas players lack stamina? I don't think that's it. I know that that's an easy thing to look at, the strength and conditioning. That's also kind of one of those things that, you see what these guys do during the offseason, the weights, the conditioning, the boot camps, sliding big, huge weights across the field turf, indoor or outdoor. All these guys are in great shape. Now, there might be a player or two who has missed practice time that's not in great shape as far as game time. For example, Lyle Collins, the right tackle for Cowboys, being out 5 games. You missed the physicality, but something's going on where they are wearing down in the second half.
Maybe it's wearing out, but how are you not in shape 9 games into the season?
That's what I'm saying. I think they're in shape.
I think it's more of schematics. I think it's more of what other teams are doing. I don't think it's. You're not out of shape 9 games into the season or 8 games, whatever it is. I find that to be, if it's a reason, it's like the 3rd or 4th or 5th reason to me. I just think it more comes down to, maybe more so execution, more so what other teams are doing. But I don't think Baylor's just going to wear. Baylor could wear out Texas today in theory if Abram Smith's running the ball early on, but I don't think that's something you can bank on by any means.
Well, I think it's also if you look at the way that they lose, it's not about getting maybe worn out stamina wise, but when teams are running straight at you and knocking you back, that's a wear on you physically, pain, I don't want to say pain-wise, but soreness and all that, that is just a drain mentally. The other thing is,
Stop for a second. You said mentally. I think it takes your will if someone just starts grinding at you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about that. Physically, yes, if they're beating up on you, but I think it's more of golly.
And as for a physical stamina thing, I think if you look at the last 2 teams that beat them, there's not much drop-off, in the kind of worker bees on either Oklahoma's or Oklahoma State's team as they roll people in and out. Texas, and we talked about this with Jeff Howe, and you'll hear this later in the show, but he agrees with me in that Texas has talent, but they don't have depth. So they've got guys that are talented, but once those guys are on the sideline for a couple plays getting a bottle of water, well, what's going on
That's
out
why
there?
Time of possession, if you allow Texas to control time of possession. Now, time of possession is not quite what it used to be, but if they have the ball quite a bit to give their talented front line an opportunity as far as starters, an opportunity. I don't care who your defense is. You leave them out in the field long enough in this day and age where everyone's going wide and running all over the different directions and angles, I think you could wear a team down. So that Bijan probably gets his, but the question is, does he get the 75-yarder? Baylor's been pretty fortunate, and also because of their speed, to not allow. Well, there was a 54-yarder against Brigham Young early in the second half, but they have given up big runs to Breece Hall. They've given up chunks to Warren at Oklahoma State, but they have been able to at least stop a few of those from going, instead of 40 yards, instead of going 60 or 65 or 70, and then making the team either not score or kick field goals instead of touchdowns. Bijan gets loose. even with Baylor's team speed, most likely he is gone. Also, from Keith Posa, in fact, he brought this up. Isn't that what Jeff Howe brought up as far as the depth of Texas, as far as what you guys were talking about there as well?
Yeah, and I guess from that standpoint, physically being drained at the end of games, yeah, but I that would apply to that, sure, rather than just them being tired, so to speak. Yeah, depth playing an issue.
All right, Armstrong, do we have the moment last night in the high school game? We're going to do this, come back, and we'll hear from J.J. Joe, Baylor color analyst for Baylor Radio and former Baylor quarterback as well. Later on, Jeff Howe on Texas will take you up until 10:30. So is this the full audio or is this just a video?
No, this is everything, right, Armstrong?
All right, so last night we did the game between Cedar Hill, that's a team with great tradition in Texas. They were beating Midway 45-17 at the time, and pretty much the game is over. Now, you see this about once every few years, maybe almost once a year now, where I'll never forget about the young boy that was battling cancer at a spring game with Nebraska, Hoffman, and that thing went viral. And we've seen that a few more times along the way. So this is not something like that. Titus Holman's a senior from Midway, special needs student, and the game stopped. Cedar Hill is going to win the game. Watch this moment, listen to this moment as Midway and Cedar Hill give this young man the moment of his life for now.
And they're going to bring in Titus, is that right? Holdman.
Senior class going nuts for
Aurelius Torres, a senior. They're going to try to maybe give a few seniors that otherwise don't play too much. And this is going to be one of those special moments to give a young man a chance to have a special moment. 35 seconds to go in this game. Shane Anderson's walking over to Carla Stone near midfield. Fans and the students they're loving this. Titus Holdman comes into the game. And you can hear him in the background yelling, Titus, Titus. Tedford is the quarterback. Titus lines up in the slot on the near side. Cedar Hill will come back from the sideline. And Holdman now goes into the backfield with McDonough. Cedar Hill's defense is on the field. Fans are on their feet. Holdman lines up near McDonough. Midway at the 42-yard line with 45-17 Cedar Hill. The snap. Tedford. Holdman picks it up, grabs it. He's going to run. Titus 50. Titus 40. Titus Holdman 20. What a moment. Touchdown. Titus Holdman. And everybody, both teams swarmed Titus Holdman in what a moment, Craig Smoak. Oh, I've never been a part of something like this, an incredible moment.
Yeah, and the officials are waving the clock, so they'll let this run out, and that was really cool. You know, you kind of wonder what they're doing initially, and I give Cedar Hill a heck of a lot of credit, man. They embraced that, and their players were as excited as Midway was. So shout out to the Cedar Hill program, and a very, very cool moment, like you said.
You know, on a night in which Cedar Hill dominated most of this game, 45-23, a moment like that puts everything in perspective. Holman coming back towards the sideline. He's got the football in his hand. He is so pumped up. He's coming over to the fans. Look at him go.
There's people down here crying.
Oh, they should be. This is a great moment in sports.
All right, that was at the end of the game. Titus Holdman came in the game. I'm telling you, first of all, he can outrun me, but most people probably can. What a great moment. To me, not only him scoring, but Cedar Hill, Carlos Lynn. I said Carlos Stone. He's a former coach at La Vega and also coached at John Tyler and elsewhere. Carlos Lynn and Cedar Hill, incredible amount of class. First of all, knowing what was going on, and the team for Cedar Hill was as excited as anybody else in the stadium. They both, and Shane Anderson at Midway, handled that perfectly.
Yeah, and look, he got it kind of excited because he dropped the ball at first and picked it up and ran.
I was hoping he didn't jump down on it.
And that was the thing. It was like, oh no, they fumbled the ball. Like, please, nobody just fall on it. But it was a really cool moment. And the Cedar Hill, like you saw, I think that back judge even want to kind of get in on the group hug there. It was a really awesome moment, and it was really good, especially for a Midway team that's and a fan base that's been through a little bit this year, not winning games, to see that, you know what, sometimes it's just not about that, and it's about a kid who's been with the program and who does whatever, just wants to be a part of it, but can't be because of his lot in life. And but Shane Anderson, Craig talked to him after the game, and Craig, I mean, you were right there next to him. I could hear it in his voice how choked up he was.
Yeah, he was. I mean, a lot of people out there were emotional. It was a really cool moment, like y'all said, and very cool to see it. Glad that the Midway camera crew was able to capture that as well, and good for Titus. And shout out once again to Cedar Hill for helping make that happen in what was an otherwise, very one-sided affair in that ball game. So yeah, at least a cool moment there at the end for Midway to close out their home schedule.
So Midway does lose 45-23, but that moment with Titus Holdman was incredible. Carlos Lynn texted him on the way back to the condo last night. He was thrilled to be a part of that as well. And that right there is the moment last night in high school football around the state of Texas. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from former Baylor quarterback J.J. Joe on this game. J.J. makes it clear he thinks Texas is coming in with their hair on fire, full throttle, everything let loose, and Baylor will too. Should be a heck of a game. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
We're now joined by J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor radio analyst, Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. J.J., what do you remember about those weeks when you played Texas when you were there?
Coach Schaff probably can just attest to this, but Smoak, when we played specifically the Aggies and the Longhorns, the fight song, Coach Schaff would play the fight song over the Floyd Casey Stadium speakers the entire week. So Monday, and we used to practice on Monday. So Monday through Thursday, that's all we heard. So by the time we got to the ball game, we hated that song. And imagine for 4 years hearing that during Texas week. So that's what I remember, Smoak. We had a pretty good record when I was there against UT, but I remember more than anything the practices leading up to the game.
He was always doing something.
Had you mad at the band?
Yeah, like you wanted to kick a pylon or something like that, or the goalpost. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's Coach Taft for you.
This game in particular, with Texas coming off a 2-game losing streak, do you think that makes them more dangerous than if they were maybe even off of a 2-game winning streak?
I'm not going to say it makes them too dangerous. I think they're more dangerous. I think they're dangerous anyway. This team, as I've looked at, I saw some of the Oklahoma State game. I've seen them in different parts during the season. This is a fantastic football team. I can't tell. I think the Arkansas game is an outlier. I think they were between quarterbacks and I think they were probably smelling themselves a little bit after beating, what was then a top 20 ranked team. But we can't forget this team had OU dead to rights, was up on Oklahoma State, in a pick six turned the game around. They're solid. I'm not going to say they're world beaters, but they're solid. And when you have a solid football team that has lost 2 straight, and they know if they lose another one, it's over. There's no way they can get to the Big 12 championship game. If they win them all, they still need help, but they have a chance because they get Baylor, they get Iowa State. So in my mind, I think that this is probably going to be one of the best games they play. We'll get the fight that they probably haven't shown at any other time outside of probably the OU game.
JJ, Bijan's the headliner. We all know that, and he'll play a significant role. I mean, on average, he's got 100 yards plus a game. He catches a couple passes as well. He scores in every game, so I'd expect all that to probably take place this weekend as well. But Casey Thompson, what have been your thoughts on seeing him under the gun, seeing him throwing it downfield? You've seen what he can do. What kind of a challenge does the Baylor defense have from that standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, Casey, he, it's interesting. Coming in, I was surprised after I finally got to see him play. I can't believe he wasn't the day one starter. He may be a guy that plays better in the game than he does in practice. That happens. I used to do that. So that may be a deal, but I've seen him. He is a mobile guy. He can move, but he prefers to try to throw the ball first. So he's a guy that wants to work from the pocket, wants to throw if he has to move, but can he also hurt you with his legs? I like his deep ball. I think he throws an excellent deep ball. And, even though he's a junior, he's still relatively inexperienced, although he's had a little bit of game action while Sam was there. But I like his overall game, and he's getting better, and this is the first year it's been his team, and he's playing well. I mean, the stats bear it out. I mean, he does have five INTs. In the Oklahoma State game, that pick six changed things, but Oklahoma State's a solid defensive football team, so that happens.
What are your thoughts about the off week as you come off to such a critical win as far as playing a top 25 team? You're building momentum. You get the week off. Now, Texas did as well. How much does that play into to getting better, tweaking things, or would you rather have played this game last Saturday?
I'd rather play the last Saturday, and it's only because I think Baylor needed the week off. 7 games, they played really well. I think they needed a week off. I think UT needed a week off. I think it benefited UT more than it benefited Baylor, because Baylor's on a roll. We're playing well, and I don't have any doubt that we'll continue that. We may be a little rusty, but UT will be as well. But UT, they have that extra week to just kind of work on stuff, try to regain a little bit of that zest, that mojo, kind of work between the ears. I think the work for them is between the ears. It's not physical. So I would have rather played this last weekend only because we're playing UT this week. But nevertheless, both teams are in the same spot. I mean, they both are off. They both had those extra days, and they both come in relatively healthy, and that's all you can ask this time of year.
Coach Aranda talked a little bit about shaking up their tendencies this week and making sure to keep it fresh. What do you expect that to really mean, especially when it comes on offense for Baylor? Because I thought the last 2 weeks they had shaken up their tendencies.
Well, and that's what I think. I just think what he's saying is they're going to keep doing what they've done I think last week against BYU, they were very intentional about changing up tendencies. Now, the one thing I think I heard one of his interviews he may be talking about is, when Abram Smith is in a game, they have a certain set of plays that they like to run, that they prefer, that they probably use at a higher rate. When Treston comes in, there's a package so I believe that what he's saying is that when certain personnel are in, they'll change the tendency there. So maybe Abram Smith is in more on, passing downs, they'll throw a pass in that situation. So that I see the use of personnel, because that sometimes signals to teams, Abram's in the backfield. Here's the set. These are the 4 likely plays we're about to see. So I think he'll shake up that a little bit. That allows them to have a few tendency breakers. But I think against BYU, Coach Grimes was very intentional. That game plan was probably the best game plan I've seen here in several years. Probably since Bryles was here. It was an excellent game plan, and it bore the fruit.
JJ, there's not a lot of weaknesses to really poke through with Baylor. I mean, the secondary, there were some big chunk plays against BYU, but I mean, you look at a lot of those plays and the coverage was actually pretty good. It's just, great plays being made by Nakua and others. So, I mean, what kind of a concern do you have entering this game in terms of Sarkisian and the Texas offense? I think the fact they've got 2 weeks to prepare is kind of daunting because of what he can do and plan for. But are you worried about or maybe not worried, that maybe that's too strong a word. Are you concerned about the secondary? Where do you kind of look as far as that goes?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think, college coaches, football coaches, forget college coaches, are notorious. They plagiarize, man. That's only illegal in school, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to watch tape. They're going to copy. They're going to plagiarize. And until you stop it, Oklahoma State had, their good receiver, I forget his name. I forget his name, the Oklahoma State receiver.
Yeah.
He had a great day. What did he have? 6 for 101, 110, and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. He made some nice Moss catches. Last week we saw, the receiver. I'm forgetting his name too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nakua. All those names, man. I'll tell you, Nakua. But I mean, he just didn't matter who we put on him. It could have been Raleigh. It could have been Barnes. It could have been Al. I mean, he was just mossing us, really. So they have Joshua Moore. His stats aren't going to jump off the page and kill you and make you think, oh, wow, he's great. Even Xavier Worthy, the freshman, they go deep. I mean, when I've seen them on occasion, I mean, those guys are running deep, and they're going to do it. I'm telling you now, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it because they feel like that's the way we attack this defense. So if I'm them, and I've said this, I wrote it on Second 365 my article. I said, look, Joshua Moore is 6'1". That doesn't seem like much, but he's a long 6'1". There's a different 6'1". He's long. His arms are long. His legs are long. And you have a quarterback that throws a really good deep ball. If he gets matched up against Raleigh, and it's no knock against Raleigh, they will go at him. So coach has to make a decision with Bijan Robinson in the backfield. Do I take Christian or JT out of the run game play and make sure I have some help over there? But they'll shoot it. And these guys have shown that they'll take chunks and they'll get chunks. And if they start chunk playing this is the kind of team that the score would be 28 points in the first half. If they do what BYU did. BYU guys wasn't going to run away from us.
Right.
These guys will.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, JJ. And they do love to throw it deep. And last year they hit a play. It was not a long pass, but it turned into a catch and run with, I think it was Black. Whoever it was caught a pass over the middle and then went another 30 or 40. But yeah, that's what I would do if they like to be able to get Bijan off going and what he thinks, but I think that they will with Worthy and what you mentioned with Moore and others. Yeah.
I mean, and others. I mean, that's the question about Texas is who are the others, because it really is. It's Xavier Worthy, it's Joshua Moore, and it's Bijan Robinson as far as their receivers go. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else we see emerge maybe a little bit this weekend. But I think you're right, JJ, about Raleigh. I don't know how you can turn on that BYU tape and not go after him after what you saw. Just not that he's a bad player by any means, but just he struggled, and it was very clear. But like you said, so did a lot of other guys against Puka Nacua. So we will see on that front.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, I hate to do it. I mean, it's big time football, and it's not a knock because Raleigh is a top corner. But if you ask me, and this is just outside looking in, just as an analyst looking. Raleigh, if he gets a chance at the next level, I don't know Raleigh's speed. I know his size. And if he gets a chance at the next level, and I think he should get, maybe free or something, it'll be as a nickel corner. It'll be as an inside guy. The NFL didn't put in a lot of 5'8", 5'9" guys on the edge, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm just thinking, to me, and you don't see many colleges do this, to me, it's matchups. Football is about matchups. That's why some teams you play well, others you struggle against, and people say, well, why did they got to beat by the other team by 20? How did you barely beat them? It's the matchup. So if I got a chance to match up accordingly, Raleigh is one of my top corners, would be on any slot guy, because slot guys are hard to cover, and any guy that's not 6'2" or tall. And then I got two 6'2", I got a 6'2" corner, 6'1" corner, Kalen and Al, and they do pretty decent in coverage. I'm not going to lose the fight just by genetics. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just thinking big picture. When we see OU, when we see UT, we see TCU has a couple tall edge guys. We got to be prepared. I'm hoping we're prepared for it, but it'll be a great contest.
JJ's talked a lot about height here. I'm going to go back to where he said there's different 6'1s, and if there's a short 6'1 or a stumpy 6'1, is there a place I can go to be that?
Yeah, one of those mirrors that stretches things up.
Yeah.
Hey, but Smoak, I mean, you've seen guys. Sometimes you see a guy that's 6'1". There's two guys that are 6'1". Mm-hmm. And you'll see a guy that's 6'1", and his arms go down to his freaking knee.
Yeah.
Right? And when he reaches up, that's what I'm talking about, Joshua Moore. If you just turn on the tape, you'll see this guy, and you're like, he's only 6'1". He's like all legs and arms.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you'll see another guy that's 6'1", and he has average arms, and it's a difference. And a lot of it has to do with their length. And Joshua Moore, while a very small fellow, as far as 6'1", 168, he's not the big guy. He's a long 6'1".
I just want to be described as a long 5'8".
Wait a minute. What are you?
5'7" and a half.
What?
Yeah, exactly. 5'8" is a stretch.
5'8" is a stretch. I'm 5'8". I'm 5'8", like Kendall Wright was 6'1".
We are getting out the measuring tape as soon as this segment is over. It's over.
Yeah, y'all do that. Put that on film.
Hey, JJ, anything to the fact that this could be the last time that Texas ever plays in Waco?
No, not really. I mean, it's interesting. My personal opinion is that, they want to get out, and I think the Big 12 wants to move on. I think next year will be kind of quick.
Yep.
It'd be kind of quick for them. But I think if push comes to shove, they'll have one more season. I think we may see them one more time. I do think this will be the last time for a while that they come to McLean.
Yeah.
So, that's something. And, I think you don't have to get guys up for UT anyway. So Baylor guys are ready. And I know just in case they want to get a W. They don't want this to end up being the last one. And, you don't want that on you later.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback and also radio color analyst for Baylor Radio. And I love the fact he said Coach Staff was blaring that fight song, the Aggies and Longhorns, the week that they were preparing for those games. By the way, our segments with Baylor brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. We appreciate the great folks there. Baylor in Texas, 111 meetings. Imagine with all of what's going on with college football since really the 90s. Imagine how many of the long-term rivalries, one-sided most of them, have been interrupted and or just discontinued because of the changes in conferences and teams moving, including this one here in a year or two. When we come back, more Texas Baylor. Baylor in Texas, Longhorns and the Bears. Pregame show continues on 365 Sports.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Among the Big 12 teams, we've mentioned the schedule, but among the top 25 teams, which of these top 25 teams, and there is one game against each other, in fact, there's a couple of those, 2 or 3 of those, but which of these top 25 teams most vulnerable? Let's start with the top 10. Oklahoma at home against Texas Tech. Cincinnati, number 2, plays at Tulane. I'll mention the games. Obviously, Michigan at Michigan State, 6 against 8. Someone's got to lose there. Iowa, number 9 at Wisconsin. Oregon at home, number 7 against Colorado. Georgia, top-ranked team in the big cocktail party against Florida. Number 10, Ole Miss at 18th-ranked Auburn. And then also today, Ohio State, 5th-ranked Buckeyes at home against 20th-ranked Penn State.
Well, I think probably Ole Miss, Auburn starting to play better, is maybe the most vulnerable on the surface, but there are weird things. Look, Wisconsin's starting to play better. They still aren't good, but they're starting to play better. Iowa, maybe they're vulnerable after they took the loss a couple weeks ago, but after Penn State lost last week, I'm not ready to chalk them up to beat Ohio State. But we've seen weird things happen in the last few weeks, so wouldn't surprise me to see any of those. And of course, one top team is dropping out because 2 of them are playing each other in Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah, I don't have a really good feel for any major upset brewing. I suppose 10-18 is a big upset, but I'm still banking on Ole Miss winning that game. So, Auburn. I guess that would be the closest one. And Michigan State, we're splitting hairs. It's 6 versus 8.
Right.
Like it'd be some upset. So, outside of that, no, I don't see Florida beating Georgia. I don't see Tulane beating Cincy. I don't see many of these games. SMU Houston, I'm just intrigued to see kind of how that unfolds. Outside of that, no, I don't really see a whole. BYU Virginia's an interesting game, but yeah, I don't see some major upset brewing really. One that just pops out and goes, "Ooh, that could really be a game changer."
I would say that the most interesting thing out of Georgia Florida is if say Florida gets their doors blown off by Georgia, and I don't know, that's a rivalry game, even though Georgia's the better team, they'll win that game. But like if Florida gets their doors blown off in a rivalry game, the heat on Dan Mullen will turn up, and there's this perception about him that he doesn't recruit and that he's not going out there and moving and shaking. And currently he's not allowed to because he broke a rule, so he's not allowed to recruit this year. So that kind of makes it even worse. And the Florida fans are mad, and I think it's because of 2 things. 1, they don't think he recruits, and 2, he keeps playing Emory Jones instead of just going with Anthony Richardson. And it's driving the fans nuts there. And we'll see what happens if the heat gets turned up. If he rotates both quarterbacks this week, they are going to be so pissed at him.
Yeah, he just hasn't done anything. I thought the way they played against Alabama would give them a spark, but it didn't. It didn't seem like that they gave Alabama some trouble. But you've not seen much happen with them since that time at all. By the way, from Joey Kelly on the chat room, Texas is in desperation mode, and you should never count on a team on the brink of being out. Markel, huge Texas fans, feeling like they should roll today. I'm not sleeping on Baylor, but my mind is Texas. I can't look at a loss anymore. I think if Sark loses this, things get interesting in Austin. No. I do think it'll be disappointing. It'll be 3 consecutive losses. That won't be good. They hate losing to Baylor. But Baylor has in the last decade been 50-50, what, 5 and 6 overall. But I think so.
Chris Del Conte and Jay Hartzell, who are the guys who are make that decision, understand what the situation is on the roster right now, and they want the coach to have time to build it. I think that's why, the reason Tom Herman left was probably more than one-fold. But the biggest thing about Tom Herman is that they felt he'd built a roster and wasn't doing anything with it. And now those guys are gone, like Sam Ehlinger, and you change quarterbacks. All these different things have happened this year. So Steve Sarkisian is going to get a couple years, but people might, not really be all that enthusiastic about him right at the top.
Steve Sarkisian's fine, and he is not in any danger whatsoever for at least 2 more years. I mean, barring them going and losing out this year and then being 500 next year, Steve Sarkisian's not going anywhere anytime soon. And it's way too early to talk about any type of warmth to his seat whatsoever, in my opinion. There's nothing going on in that regard. 0, period. So he's going to have plenty of time to put his fingerprints all over this program. And again, let's not act like this has just been some bad football team. Like, we look at records too much. We look at 4-3. They were better than Oklahoma. They should have beaten Oklahoma. They were better for a large portion of that game against Oklahoma State, although that one wasn't as one-sided as the OU game was. So, I mean, they're not far off from being a one-loss team right now. They're not far off from being exactly the same record as Baylor. So, 4-3 or they're limping in or whatever, I expect a hell of a game from Texas today. They've had 2 weeks to focus. They've got good players. They might have more overall talent than Baylor. I think it's probably as even as it's been in a while, but ultimately you break it down and you could give the edge to Texas, I think, overall. But yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be a really fun game today. Sarkisian's a good coach, and he's got Texas, on the come up. I think they're just going to get better and better so long as he's there. So yeah, I mean, if they were to go out and get spanked by 30 today, which I don't see a scenario where that happens, then I'm sure there would be some portion of the fan base that would chirp a little bit. But outside of that would just be fans chirping anyways. He's in for the long haul.
Yeah, I agree. That's just something that again, they're 4-3, could be 6-1. Now they were blistered by Arkansas.
Yeah, that game's not that, but that game's the only one where you go like, yeah, they just beat them. But the other two, the Oklahoma schools, I mean, you can look at both of those games and say like, this is where Texas erred. This is where they let it go. And I'm sure they've learned from that. And I'm sure if they get up big today early on, which would be exactly against what Dave Aranda is hoping for, because he made mention multiple times of, every coach says start fast, but in particular against Texas, like that is something that you have to do, or at least not allow them to start as fast. If they do start fast, you have to match them. If they don't, then that works into your favor a little bit. But that is going to be key against this team because they jumped all over OU early on and, just weren't able to close it out. But, I think it's going to be one heck of a game. I give Baylor the edge because they're playing at home, and I just, over the long haul, just like more of what I've seen from them all 3 phases across the board consistently. But, yeah, it's going to be a heck of a contest, I think, here in a couple hours.
All right, so did Iowa State obviously got themselves right back in it? They've done this before. It is going to be one hell of the next month, all the way up until the championship game in December. You have Oklahoma. Despite sometimes the hits and misses, they've won the games they've had to win. They've won every game, but they did make that incredible, dramatic, emphatic fourth quarter comeback, second half comeback to beat Texas. Oklahoma State, despite the loss to Iowa State, they're there for the long haul. Iowa State, despite the loss to Baylor, there for the long haul. Baylor, despite the loss to Oklahoma State, there's a common denominator here. Today they win, and they're in for the long haul. And so you didn't know who was going to be in the middle of the pack. Baylor could have been someone, back when we made our predictions at the start of the year. Who's going to be below Oklahoma and Iowa State? Could have been 5 or 6 different teams. And then you look up, Kansas State's not quite as good. And tonight or today against TCU, 2 teams, both of them must wins. West Virginia's not been very good at all. That could have been a team. We didn't know. And so, man, it's going to be one fantastic stretch drive because all of them play each other down. Not all of them, but they all have common denominators to play each other in some ways.
Yeah, I think now for the first time we'll see after this week, especially if Baylor wins this week, then I think you'll definitely see a definite middle forming because the middle's been kind of fluid in the Big 12, and that you kind of just waited for teams, but there's definitely a floor that some teams are kind of heading to right now too over the next few weeks. And Texas Tech has fired their coach, and that to me puts them towards the floor, even though they're 5-3 on the year, or 5-2, whatever they are right now. There are you look at. I think Texas would settle in the middle, but TCU might be heading to the floor. If Kansas State doesn't win against TCU, they might stay on the floor. They've only got one win in the conference so far anyway. So there's kind of some surprises there. West Virginia shocked everybody by beating TCU last week, which means I think TCU's heading kind of to the bottom of the conference if they don't get right.
I think it's kind of clear and maybe a little fuzzy on a certain part, but I think it's pretty clear who the tiers are. It's just 4 teams in the top tier. It's the Oklahoma schools, it's Baylor, and it's Iowa State. Texas, with a win today, would join that group. If they don't win today, then they're firmly the top team in the middle group, and that middle group would also feature Texas Tech for the time being, although, we'll see how much they rallied today for the coaching change, and maybe that plays into it a little bit. I don't know, but they're very firmly in that second group. And then I think everybody else, that's the bottom group. And it's a matter of who's going to separate and be. I guess that would be Group 3, and then Kansas by itself is Group 4. But Group 4 is going to be occupied by probably West Virginia here pretty soon, if not already. And really the only question marks are, is Texas Tier 1 or Tier 2? That's going to be decided today, because if they don't win today, then they're pretty much out of the race entirely. So that's one question. And then I think Tech and K-State, how do they move forward? I think K-State's got some opportunities to do some damage after the tough start. They've already played Iowa State. They've already played Oklahoma. Already played Oklahoma State. So they got off to a really tough start schedule-wise in the Big 12 that maybe made people kind of forget about them. But now they get the better half of their schedule for the most part, although they will still play Baylor, et cetera. So K-State's one that I think could jump up. But, yeah, West Virginia, Kansas, and then, TCU. That's the interesting one. And I think that will be decided today as well. If they lose to K-State, then you can, I think, firmly put them in the bottom tier, just slightly above Kansas. But it's a 4-team race with a 5th team potentially joining today, depending on the Texas-Baylor result. That's how I look at it. Texas is going to jump into the fray, or they're not, and we're going to watch Baylor go play Oklahoma, and we're going to watch Oklahoma play Iowa State and Oklahoma State, and Iowa State play Oklahoma, and have a fun last few weeks.
If Baylor, again, this is hypothetical, if Baylor wins, Iowa State wins, Oklahoma wins, and Oklahoma State wins.
Which I expect with Baylor being the close call.
Yeah, and Baylor right now, of those, you would think that's the one that is the closest. It is, 2.5-point spread, whatever it's been. Then all of a sudden, those 4 who already have somewhat separated, that's it.
Yeah,
and you can't have 2 in the championship game, and it could come down to some craziness when it comes to who beat whom. And Baylor has a huge win against Iowa State, lost to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Baylor, lost to Iowa State. Oklahoma, they haven't played any of them. None of those teams. But they do have the win against Texas, who could themselves get back in this thing, although with the 2 conference losses already.
Yeah, but, I mean, if they beat Baylor, then Baylor's got 2 conference losses, and they'd have the head-to-head. So Baylor's behind them. That would mean that the Oklahoma schools and Iowa State would be in front of them, and they play Iowa State. Now, obviously, they lose the head-to-head to the 2 Oklahoma schools, but you just keep winning, and you hope they drop one, and they got to play each other. So there is a path there for Texas, but it all has to start today. They cannot lose today, or else they are pretty much done, and they would join the West Virginias and the K-States and those schools who are pretty much just banking on playing spoiler the rest of the way. So, like I said, 4 to 5 teams right now in that race, and some others that could potentially upset the apple cart a little bit.
When we come back, Jeff Howe, he covers Texas. What does he say about this matchup? Not just what Texas can do or not do and what's going on, but also his thoughts about Baylor. And this is 365 Sports. Kickoff at just after 11. We'll take you until 10:30. 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, Jeff Howell covers the University of Texas. Many things, Horns 247. He's also on the Horn and much more, podcasts and all that. He joins us. He was with Craig for many years on his show, and now with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Is this like rally the troops? This is up against the wall? Win one for the Gipper type moment for UT this week?
I was thinking about this today. You know, it feels like covering this program for the last decade. There have been a lot of these moments. So for the players, I'm sure it is. For somebody like me that's observed it from afar, again, these have been pretty frequent. But, you know, I'll say this. You know, I think the frustrating thing for Texas fans, especially the last few weeks, when you look at the initial plans that Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski and even Jeff Banks on special teams had for the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State game, you saw it click, and you saw Texas. There was a reason why they were able to build big leads in both of those games. It's just the inability to adjust and how the model of playing complementary football has just been completely disintegrated in the second half of both of those games. It's frustrating. So you can look and see that it feels like they're close, yet by the end of the game, you still feel like they're so far away. But I think that part of it, though, Smokey, those first half, there have built the reasons why they built big leads. I know that's what Sark is hammered home to these players. That, hey, you're good enough to get in these games. You just got to finish them. So I think that's where kind of that circle the wagons mentality is coming from, and why they've been able to take something positive out of those two losses.
Is that really maybe an overall that this team has talent but not depth yet?
I think that's pretty accurate, Paul. I mean, I say this all the time. When you look at the best teams in college football, one thing they all have in common, they've got talent and depth. And I know it's kind of a tired example, but I think about the 2005 Texas team that won the national championship. I think they had 7 offensive linemen on that team that ended up playing in the National Football League. The entire 2 deep on the defensive line play in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Ross won the Thorpe Award the following year. He didn't even start on that team. That's what you're talking about when you've got talent and depth. I think Texas, you look, there are some spots where they are talented. Everybody knows about Bijan Robinson. Xavier Worthy is a game breaker at the receiving position for them. Marvin Overshown's one of the better, I think, in the box defenders in this conference. But as you go down the line, there, and we can talk about position by position, there are definitely some spots where if a guy goes down or if they got in a hole, and you see that at some positions, edge on defense being one of them, they just don't have enough quality bodies in the event of injuries or if a guy's having an off day.
So, Jeff, kind of in line with that, we know Bijan's gonna do what Bijan does, and there'll be some other running backs. But I mean, Texas does have the ability to hit the big play. Baylor, if they have shown a weakness on defense, it's been giving up the big type of splash play. I know Worthy can go, and Joshua Moore's definitely proven some things in the past. But how much did that Jordan Whittington injury kind of leave them searching for answers outside of those two, and even with those two?
Yeah, it killed them, Craig, and where it's really killed them is on third down. And Whittington, too, was kind of a guy that, they set up a lot of short stuff for him. He was a guy that, hey, if you're in 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, you can throw him a bubble screen and get you right back on schedule where you're 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4. They don't have that right now. Whittington is an interesting guy because, yes, he's a receiver, but look, we all saw what he did in the state championship game for Cuero a few years ago. He's got his kind of running back instinct with the ball in his hands, and they don't have another guy like that. Xavier Worthy has done some great things, but I think you're kind of seeing the growing pains. And Joshua Moore, as productive as he can be, does have some physical limitations, so you've got to use him a certain way. I think it's twofold. I think, it's actually 3 keys to them on offense. I think key number 1, when Texas lines up in 12 personnel with their 2 tight end looks of Cade Brewer and Jared Wiley, they're real effective running the football. I think one thing that Sark has to do, and he's talked about maybe trying to do this a little bit more, they got to get those tight ends involved in other ways than just having them go in motion, when they run some kind of split zone concept or something like that. You got to use tight end screens, pop passes. You got to get those guys involved to make yourself not so much predictable. The second part of that is they're looking for one of those other receivers to step up. Kelvontae Dixon and Marcus Washington are 2 guys that I know Sark has talked about for weeks now. They feel like both of those guys are close. They're just looking for one of those guys to take the next step. And the third part of that is where you can get some extra help on offense. Don't be surprised if you see a little bit more of Roschon Johnson tomorrow than you've seen the last few weeks. And then Keelan Robinson is one of those guys that has the kind of speed. I mean, it is that DJ Monroe, Marquise Goodwin level of like system shocking speed that he's got. He's just gotten 2 combined touches in the last 2 games, so they're trying to figure out ways to get him the ball. So it's either going to come from one of those 3 things, Craig, to make up for the loss of Whittington. Either one of those receivers has to step up, Sark has to do a better job of doing more with the tight ends, or they just got to play more 2-back personnel, or maybe even use 3 running backs on the field at the same time, because that is one position where they actually do have talent and depth right now.
Why are they getting kind of grilled against the run? What's going on with the defense there?
I think this, Smokey, I think it comes down to, and I think Baylor's, when I look at defenses in this league, I think Oklahoma is probably where Texas wants to be, where you've got multiple guys on a defensive front that are going to play in the NFL. I think realistically where you'd like to be in a good place to be is where Baylor is, where you just got so much experience at all levels of your defense. Texas doesn't really have either one of those right now. They got some experienced guys in some places, but to your point, Smokey, about stopping the run, and I've said this all offseason,
The biggest concern I had about this defense was they were not going to be able to replace what they got from Joseph Osai last year. I mean, a guy that could single-handedly destroy your opponent's game plan by himself. They just don't have that guy. And, you look at Tom Herman. I wouldn't say Tom Herman he definitely didn't do a bad job of recruiting, but one of the areas where they were deficient, and we even saw this to an extent under Charlie Strong, the ability to really identify, evaluate, recruit, develop real true edge guys. I mean, they kind of, I don't say they call lightning in a bottle with Osai, but Osai was one guy they did it right with. But they've had a bunch of misses at those defensive end positions, and the scheme changes they've had hasn't helped either. That's why Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski, that's why they had to go into the transfer portal and get a bunch of bodies to play, those two hybrid end positions in this defense. The problem they got, Smokey, they just don't, A, have frontline talent, and B, the guys they have had either haven't played well, or in the case of Jacoby Jones, when he got hurt in the Oklahoma game, they lost him to a foot injury. He might not be back before the end of the regular season. They were already kind of suspect against the run, but they've really had trouble fortifying the edges. They made an adjustment in the Oklahoma State game. They started playing with more four linebacker personnel. That helped a little bit, but kind of what compounded their issues, going back to what we talked about with the Whittington situation and how shaky Texas has been on third down the last 2 weeks. The offense's inability to sustain drives in the second half, that defense is just getting overwhelmed in the second half, where, I mean, when the offense has series or stretches where you're 4 3-and-outs in a row, you're 4 3-and-outs in a series of 5 possessions like you were in the Oklahoma game, if you look at play differential in the second half of their last 2 losses, I think Oklahoma was plus 12 in play differential in the second half. Oklahoma State was plus 24. The defense was on the field 24 more plays than the offense was in the second half of the Oklahoma State game. They just flat got gassed in the second half. So basically, they've got issues, mostly, but the fact that the offense hasn't been able to sustain drives in the second half, it's compounded their issues and made a bad problem a really bad problem.
So for tomorrow's game, is that, I mean, I think this is, probably a pretty evenly matched contest overall, Jeff, but are those matchups the ones that are going to keep Texas fans up at night, that Baylor wants to run the ball pretty much right at you, and that's what Texas doesn't want to see at all?
Yeah, Paul, and I think to, kind of piggybacking on what we were just talking about, I think it's the way Baylor wants to run the football. They want to run that wide zone, and like I said, Texas, whether you look at Oklahoma State, ranks them outside zone. Oklahoma just gutted Texas with counterplay. Texas has just not been good fortifying the edges on defense. And I think not just that, but when you look at what Baylor does well, they want to run their passing game off of that and get Gary Bohannon involved in play action. I'm sure you guys have discussed it. I was surprised how good his numbers have been in play action situations this year. You go back and watch the Oklahoma State game. Oklahoma State did a really good job of using Spencer Sanders on some bootleg action and play action, and really using that to kind of hold the ends and getting an extra half of the run game in the second half. Baylor, that's not an adjustment or a scheme thing. That's what Baylor wants to do. I think that is the big worry for Texas. So if Baylor can get their wide zone run game going, it's got the potential to be a long day for the defense, and another game where offensively maybe you're looking at you need to get to the upper 30s or the 40s to win.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate your time. As always, do a great job covering Texas. Jeff Howe, Horns 247, and also the Horn as well, among many things with covering the University of Texas.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality Study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, we're approaching under an hour before Baylor at McLean Stadium against Texas in a Big 12 game that will, well, just kind of help clarify even more or just muddy things up even more. Dave Aranda, let's discuss him a little bit. 2-7 last year. So many things that went wrong, and the fact that he didn't waste any time. He got rid of the offensive coordinator, Larry Fedora, offensive line coach Joe Wickline, just gutted. Obviously, George Munoz gutted a lot of the offense. Sean Bell gets promoted quarterbacks coach. We haven't really mentioned him much. We mentioned Grimes, and of course, also we've mentioned Mateos because the offensive line, the offense. But how about China Springs, Sean Bell, and he kind of flies under the radar. One of their better recruiters as well.
Well, and he's done a great job with Gary Bohannon this year. So, great job. They're, he's confident. Gary's confident. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I mean, he's only thrown one interception, and it was in the end zone, which is, again, if you're going to throw one, I guess that's where you really kind of want to throw it because it means you're close to scoring and you did everything right going down there. But, he's done a really great job.
Yeah, Sean's been great. I think we don't talk about the assistants a lot because we don't talk to them.
Yeah.
And there's, not a lot of insight there, season-wise because, again, we haven't talked to them. So haven't had much reason to focus in, solely on certain guys. I think Chancey Stuckey's done a great job with the wide receivers. I think some of the holdovers from Kevin Curtis, I think today's a big day for his cornerbacks. One of the things I said this, I don't, maybe it was on the podcast. I'm not sure or not, but I'm fully expecting Baylor to focus on the pass today. Like, everybody worries about Bijan, and rightfully so, but I think you could focus in on Bijan, and you're still not going to stop Bijan. So to me, today, the Baylor defense and the passing game is what I'm looking at. I think Bijan's going to probably have 100-plus yards, and it's going to be a matter of, does he have closer to 200, based on what the Baylor defense does. But, I'm looking at that passing game more than anything. So I think today's a big day for Kevin Curtis, the cornerbacks coach. And, yeah, you go up and down the line. I mean, Aranda made a bunch of moves, and you look at it now, and, well, they were the right moves. Clearly they were the right moves. Every single phase is better than it was last year. Every single one. It's not even close, including quarterback. And, Gary's done a great job. You mentioned the one interception. He, quite frankly, should probably have 3 or 4, really.
Yeah.
He's gotten lucky in some instances, but rather be lucky than good. And you just hope that he does, for the most part, protect the football. Because while he probably should have, a couple more interceptions, I mean, considering we're, 7 games into the season, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So, yeah, he's done a great job of protecting the football. I'm fascinated by this matchup. I mean, I think Texas' defense is probably better than it's given credit for. I think their offense is very good. I think Baylor's offense is very good. I think their defense is very good. And both special teams units are game-changing potentially as well. So this has got great game written all over it from my standpoint.
Yeah, should be a lot. And I think that, if the matchups line up exactly how they should, I think Baylor wins the game. But the thing about that is they never really do they? Not in this game, No,
like I saw some dude go on this whole spiel about like why it's going to be this, only to say, but I really don't know. Like it could be completely different. Like, and that's the thing is like you can preview it all you want to and say this or that and predict this or that. But like honestly, Sarkisian and Aranda coming off of 2 weeks of preparation. And, being the types of coaches that they are with tremendous assistant coaching staffs and tremendous, rosters, it could go a billion different ways, quite frankly. And of course, just the flow of the game will dictate a lot because if Texas jumps out to their typical early leads like they've done on some other teams, although Baylor started pretty well, then that's going to change what Baylor does, obviously. They're not going to be able to pound the rock with Abram Smith over and over and over again if they're down 14 or 17 potentially. So, yeah, the start of the game is going to be key. It's key in most every game, but I think especially today it really will play a big role.
Yeah, all it takes is, and the wind has calmed down from what was almost a massive type gust of winds the last couple of days. Every tree that had loose leaves or limbs that were either dying or had been clipped or whatever, they're all on the ground or in the Brazos River or somewhere. But all it takes is a muff punt to change everything up. All it takes is someone that just does some kind of.
I'll tell you this: no one's confident in the results of this game. No. Like on either side. Like no one's just like I know for a fact that there's not that in play in this game. So I think a lot of Texas people probably feel like Texas should win. But if they don't, we won't be surprised. And a lot of Baylor people feel like Baylor should win, and if they don't, it wouldn't be necessarily a shock. I think the only shock would come is if Baylor blows them out or vice versa. That's really the only shock I see coming today because a close game with either team winning is kind of what we're all expecting. And so, it was just funny to kind of see, a couple people talking about like, this is the way to go, and yet I have no idea. And so, it's kind of how I feel about it too.
Well, what we've done? We've overanalyzed this thing so much. I can't wait for them just to kick it off and see what happens, whether it's
we've had
30-23 or
2 weeks.
44-10.
That's the worst. Like the best part about the bye week is everybody gets a week off, not just players and coaches, but media and everybody who's got to go scramble and cover a game. It's nice to have a Saturday. The worst part about it, though, is we have much more time to bullcrap about it.
Yeah.
To like, it could be this and this could be this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't matter until they, put the pads on. So.
No, yeah, man. I think it's going to be a great game. And, I'm looking forward to seeing the Baylor defense versus Sarkisian's offense and looking forward to just the chess match. That's kind of like the big storyline for me rather than it just being about like one guy or one position group in particular. I think it's going to be a lot of different players and a lot of different position groups that are all going to factor into this game. So I think maybe the one storyline that has been the constant over the last 2 weeks that I am the most intrigued by is Aranda versus Sarkisian and kind of just how that coaching matchup boils down and not just those two going offense versus defense, but throughout the rest of their staffs as well. Coach K over on the Texas defensive side versus Jeff Grimes and on down the line. So, just ready to get to game time at this point.
All right, so Paul, I think you and I are pretty close. My prediction was 33-27 Baylor, and I said that one of the two teams is going to pop either a kick or a punt return. Obviously, that can flip the switch. I said 33-27 Baylor.
I said Baylor 34-29. That's what I thought was going to happen, and I think the one matchup that I think that Texas is going to have a lot of problems with is the fact that when you're running into the teeth of their defense, they're not very good at stopping that. And that's what Baylor wants to do. But, again, they've had 2 weeks. But I think Baylor wins 34-29.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas is a little better defensively than probably given credit for. I really do feel like these second half meltdowns have kind of just completely I can't find the word. It's kind of twisted the way people view them. But, yeah, I think I ended up saying 38-27. I wasn't real confident about going double digits, but I think I ultimately just thought that this is going to be more of a shootout style of a game. Although I do think the defenses are going to get some stops. I just think both offenses can be explosive. So I'm not predicting, 10, 12 play drives necessarily. I'm thinking both are going to probably hit on some big plays, therefore the high scoring result. And I think I ultimately just figured Baylor would be able to get a little bit of a lead and just grind it out and, end up winning somewhat comfortably, but I don't expect them to pull away until probably the fourth quarter if they're able to do so.
Armstrong's going to the game. He's got family in town. We're all going to be there. We wrap this up right now. Head to McLean Stadium, battle some of that traffic on 35 and MLK. Thanks to everybody. Quanta says 24-17 Baylor to close it out. And then Drip Boy Jay, can Texas get back to the Big 12 championship game if they win? It gets them back in the picture. They would be much more in better shape. Obviously, if they lose today, they're done. Yeah. The two-loss team may get in, three-loss team, and you still have Iowa State to be played down the road, and you are done. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak for Armstrong Sims, and thanks to our great sponsors, including thanks to Coach's Barbecue, XXX Coach's Barbecue, the pregame show sponsor, right around the corner downtown on Austin Avenue. Have a great day. We'll have our postgame with Paul Catalina and more right here following the game on 365 Sports. Enjoy.